Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. It is 4 p.m. ET, and that means you have found us here on Crime Time on A Mighty Blaze. I am Hank Phillippi Ryan, your host. I am so pleased to see you. I am the author of 13 novels of suspense, including the newest one, Her Perfect Life, so casually displayed behind me, which today came out in trade paperback and is now a nominee for the Agatha Award for Best Novel of the Year. So thank you, thank you, thank you for that. Before we start today, and we're welcoming Elle Cosimano, and I know you can't wait to talk with her, and neither can I, but let me just say briefly at the beginning, in this time of strife and fear, our hearts go out to the people of Ukraine. It is crazy, it is unimaginable, it is terrifying, and it's time for us to realize that stories keep us together, that stories make us a community. It's even more important to talk about stories now and to sort of count our blessings that, that we can sit at home and read any book we want without fear and without worrying that the helicopter flying overhead is dangerous. I have said many times it's always safe inside a book. And that's why we are here at Crime Time. So I welcome you all here today. Today we have the delight, I couldn't wait for this, of talking with the fabulous Elle Cosimano, whose brand new book, Finley Donovan Knocks Him Dead, is just out. Like whenever I see this, I want to go like this. To be just like the cover. I completely love it. I should have brought my sunglasses. Elle, let me just tell you one thing, you all. Heather Gudenkopf, who we love, says Finley Donovan Knocks Him Dead is dark, clever, and laugh out loud funny. I'm a fan for life, says Heather, and I so agree. I'm a Finley fan for life. Welcome, Elle, and congratulations on a wonderful book. How's the launch going?
Thank you so much, Hank. It's a joy to be here with you. It has been amazing. It has been the most wonderful experience launching the second book in the Finlay series. But just overall, the whole experience of writing and creating and publishing these books has been a joy. And so it has been especially special to create something joyful in a dark time. And these last few years for a lot of people have been pretty dark times. And so it's been, I think, extra special to launch the second book in the Finlay series and hear again from all of these fans who are enjoying and laughing and sharing these books with friends and family and book clubs and reaching out to express to me how much they're enjoying the books has meant so much. So the launch has been, I think, truly extra special this time around. And I'm so grateful, just so grateful for this experience and the team behind the book and everyone, all of these other wonderful authors, yourself included, who have embraced Finlay and helped get the word out. It's been fantastic.
Well, the joy is just everywhere about this. And if I look this way, you all, I'm looking at the comments. And Elle, you should look too, because Janine is saying, hi there, so excited. It's my favorite time of week. Bruce Gilbert is here. That's so wonderful. Hooray. Anissa says, hello, Hank and Elle. Loved this book with many exclamation marks. And Anissa knows her stuff. Brenda says, everyone is doing that with the cut sunglasses in the book on social media. That cover is so genius. What have you thought, Elle? Let me ask you that. What have you thought when you saw everybody doing this with the book with sunglasses?
It's wild. I can't even put into words the feeling of logging into Instagram every day and seeing the love for the covers of these books. These covers are fantastic, and they really lend themselves to this kind of interaction with readers and fans. But I never in a million years expected that I would see people dress their cats, their dogs, their toddlers as Finley Donovan. And it is it just so wonderful to log in each day and laugh with my readers and have this kind of fun with them. They're passionate, and I love it. It really keeps me motivated to keep writing and keep creating more adventures in this wild world they've embraced so wholeheartedly.
Well, it's been so much fun, and you're so great at it. You know, I put up my own version of Finley with sunglasses, and I think in about 30 seconds you wrote back and said Hank Phillippi Ryan knocks me dead, and I thought, wow, he is so careful and loving about her fans. Has that been marvelous for you to have this whole new community of people who know you? And if you all haven't put up your Finley shot, and Janine, I will ask, are you working on the next Finley in a little while? We'll save that. But you do remind me that we are giving away, Elle is generously giving away a copy of Finley Donovan Knocks 'Em Dead. So make sure that you leave a question or a comment or many, many, many in the chat, and the wheel of fun will spin at the end of the show, and we will pick a winner of the event. So I asked a question and I didn't even wait for your answer. That's just me. So
It is. I do try as often as I can to interact with my readers whenever I see an opportunity. And I think it's really special that readers take the time to reach out to me. And so when they do, when they tag me in a cover photo or a lovely review or a picture of the book, I try as often as I can to reach back and to show my appreciation. And I think especially our bookstagrammers out there probably know how much I appreciate them, because I left them a little special note in the acknowledgments of the book. But it is important to me that I reach back to the readers and share with them my appreciation, you know, for buying the books, for sharing the books, for talking about the books, and for having so much fun with me out there. This is good stuff. It's stuff to celebrate.
Yes, every one of those people loves you and loves the book, and that's quite a joy. That's quite a treat, and that is really why 2 years ago now, Caroline Levitt and Jenna Blum started A Mighty Blaze to keep us all together and to keep us reading and to keep us talking. And we are persevering even as the pandemic, crossing fingers, seems to wane. That is why we are all here, and we're so pleased to have you. Elle, let me read, and you all, let me read. Oh, here's Sherry asking, and Bruce is asking you a good question. Can this be read as a standalone? And I've got to say, I think it can. I mean, why would you? Why wouldn't you just go get Finley Donovan is Killing It, read that as fast as you possibly can? It's fabulous.
Start here.
And you just happen to have that. I love that book. So, but if someone says, ooh, I can't wait to read this, what would you say? What would you say to Bruce?
I would say you can read it as a standalone. I strongly recommend starting with the first book, just like Hank said. Go back to the very beginning, because the beginning is really, I think, where we get to fall in love with these characters for the first time, to really understand their circumstances. And the books do build on each other in these beautiful, fun ways. So I think while you can read the books as standalones, I think it creates a richer experience to start at the very beginning if you can.
If you can. But if you're in the airport and there's no other book,
yeah,
just fine. Start with Finley Donovan Knocks 'Em Dead, and then go back and see
right.
what her backstory is. And you say in the book, every good mystery begins with the backstory.
Yeah.
So that is another way of doing it. Let me tell the gang here all about you briefly. Elle Cosimano is a USA Today bestselling author, winner of the International Thriller Award, which is a huge deal, an Edgar Award nominee, huge deal. Her acclaimed young adult novels include Nearly Gone, Holding Smoke, The Suffering Tree, and Seasons of the Storm. Elle's debut novel for adults, Finley Donovan is Killing It, was a People magazine pick and was named one of the New York Public Library's best books of 2021, kicking off a witty contemporary mystery series. And it is so much more than that. It is that, but it is so much more than that. In addition to writing novels for teens and adults, her essays have appeared in the Huffington Post and Time. Elle lives with her husband and 2 sons in Virginia. So today, Bruce is saying, thank you. I'll start at the beginning. Very wise, Bruce. So I want to talk to you today about friendship and mystery and motherhood and humor and risk-taking and family and even COVID. But first, tell us about Finley Donovan.
Finley Donovan is the struggling single mother of 2 young children who is recently divorced. Her husband left her for their real estate agent. She is a struggling romantic suspense novelist who has had a very, very difficult time getting her career off the ground. And now, as a single mother, she's financially in dire straits when we first meet her at the beginning of book one, when she is at breakfast with her literary agent discussing the plot of her long overdue novel that she has yet to start, discussing a particularly murderous things, when the woman who is lunching beside them is eavesdropping and overhears the conversation and mistakes Finley for a contract killer and leaves Finley a note offering her an irresistible sum of money if she will eliminate this woman's problem husband. And so here we are at the beginning of Finley's journey when she is more or less posed with the question, would she kill a perfect stranger in order to protect and save her own family? And while it seems like all very, very heavy, dark material, the books themselves are what I would consider dark comedy. They're very pacey, they're very fun, and Finley's voice in particular, I think, is sort of dry and witty, and it keeps the books moving at a rapid pace. So we explore a lot of things in these books. They're comedy, there's a touch of romance, there's a lot of mystery, there's some great Lucy and Ethel type romps happening, adventures happening throughout the book. And so I think they really do, I think, appeal to everybody. And this is the second book. Finley, Donovan, Knocks 'Em Dead is the second book in what we hope will be a long-running series.
Yes, and someone who was asking about that, Sherry is saying, will the books be a series? The books are a series, hooray, and we are pleased about that. You know, when I read your first Finley, I burst out laughing because my husband is a criminal defense attorney, thank goodness for my books, and he and I were out to dinner in the before times, and I was plotting a book, and I was saying to him very seriously, you know, sweetheart, you can't just throw someone off a bridge because you can't be sure they'll be really dead. And the waiter is like, ma'am. And I'm like, a book, it's a book, it's for a book. I'm a writer, it's for a book. So that experience of someone overhearing Finley in Panera talking about being, you know, killing someone and then being mistaken for a hit person just knocked me dead is what it did. And it just carried me through the entire book. But the thing is that you've done so well with Finley is your juggle is that your book has to be a good mystery. And we're talking about Finley, Donovan, Knocks 'Em Dead by the fabulous Elle Cosimano today. Your book has to be a good mystery, but the people have to love Finley because everything she does has to be reasonable. So it's this real solid mystery wrapped in a character study. And that must have been hard to do.
Everything about these books is challenging for me. And I think that surprises a lot of people because we see this very kind of youthful pink cover. It looks very, very playful and fun. But I think mysteries are very hard to craft.
Mm-hmm.
Comedy, very hard to write. And when you put, and thrillers, very, very hard to piece together in a way that maintains tension and pacing and all of these wonderful things that we aspire to do. And when you put those three pieces together, it creates a real challenge in balance and timing and execution. And so everything about these books, while they look so, you know, maybe lighthearted and people say, oh, they're so easy to read. I take that as such a huge compliment because nothing is easy about writing them. They are infinitely challenging in the most wonderful way. And, you know, from the writer's mind, it's wonderful, like to, you know, sit and try to piece together how to make it work, you know, and take it apart and put it all back together, all the different layers that I have to kind of manage this balancing act in the story. So it really is a matter of not just writing the books, but I find my balance in rewriting these books in some cases over and over again until I get them right.
Because in a good mystery, which is sort of the solid middle of the book, the root of the book, there has to be suspects, there has to be a crime or two, there have to be people doing things for logical reasons. There have to be evidence. There have to be red herrings, all those kinds of things. And in the end, it has to be a good mystery. You can't, this book just couldn't carry itself by how funny and fabulous and how much we love Finley. Underneath it, the underpinnings have to be very strong. Did you start with the mystery story first? How did you even do that?
Yeah, it's interesting because there is so much going on here that relies on the reader really connecting with Finley's character. The mystery is one part of that. The rompy aspects, sort of unbelievable aspects of the story, because there are a lot of parts of the story that kind of border on ridiculous. Like I really kind of push the boundaries here. And so we go on some wild adventures with these two women in this story. And in order to allow, I think, the reader to suspend their disbelief through that and stay focused on that mystery, which becomes sort of the backbone of the story, I've anchored them, or I hope I've anchored them, in a very, very real character with real problems and real struggles and a real voice. And so now we have readers who are invested and cheering for this character. And we've got her very real world that sort of almost holds the whole soup together, if you will. Like it holds it grounds the adventure. It keeps the mystery and the reveals believable, that, that we've created sort of this rich backstory for her, that her motivations for making the choices that she makes make sense.
Well,
Even
let's
if we,
interrupt you to say this is
yeah,
what I think is one of your real genius things that you do, because what the choices Finley makes are risky and edgy, and for anyone else we'd say, are you kidding me, don't do that. But for Finley, we say, yeah, that makes sense, she has no other choice, this is exactly what she has to do. It'd be scary and it's risky and it's brave, but I don't see any other thing for her to do. And this is so skilled of you, to allow us to be so engaged with her and so in love with her and root for her so much, even when she's doing things that are really crazy, but she kind of has to do it. She has to. We believe that.
yeah. And I think in order to pull that off, that's when we talk about balance, that's the tough stuff, and really the fun stuff too, because I have to create a character that is so likable and sympathetic and believable in her voice, in who she is, that the unbelievable stuff she does, that we're willing to kind of let that slide, because we still want her to win. We still want her to come out on top. We feel her stakes deeply and personally, what she's at risk of losing, that it's meaningful for us as a reader. And so in order to pull that off, I really needed to take people pretty deep into her head and heart as a mother, and show not just the fun and awesome parts of momhood, because there are fun and awesome parts, but there's some really messy, real raw parts too. And so really what I've tried to do is anchor the reader and her character just so deeply that we're willing to go with her anywhere.
We are. There's
it's
no
just fun, just have fun with her. And
what you're talking about, the other people involved, she has an accountant, best friend, pal, babysitter, cleaning person named Vero, who is a fantastic character. There's her two adorable, difficult, hilarious children, her iffy, almost ex-husband, a wonderful mom, two boyfriends. I mean, this world that she inhabits. And the agent who calls her all the time saying, where's your book? Where's your book? Where's your book? And I want to go into that metafiction part as well. But going back, what you said about Lucy and Ethel, the Lucy and Ethel moment. And I'll confess to you something. And that is, I never liked to watch Lucy and Ethel because I was always so embarrassed for them. I thought, you're going to get caught. Don't do that. You're an idiot. But I don't feel like that with Vero and Finley. I think, yeah, all right, I'm with you. I'm with you. So that's the line. I mean, it is a great buddy story. There's no question about it. Touching and tender, really about female friendship. And I think you really hit that out of the park.
Thank you. Thank you. It's important for me. I never saw this as a story of female friendship when I started writing. I saw this as Finley's story. It wasn't until I introduced Vero on the page for the first time in one particular scene, the first scene where we meet her on the page in Finley's garage, where these two characters had this incredible chemistry on the page. And then all of a sudden it became this beautiful story of female friendship. And, you know, the core, the heart of the story became about these two women lifting each other up and challenging each other and encouraging each other to be the best versions of themselves. And I love that. But it was never, it was not something I set out consciously to do at the beginning. It sort of evolved as the story evolved. And it's become my favorite part of this series, watching the relationship between these two women grow. It's just so much fun.
And that was that. What did you think about that when you realized that this was turning into Vero and Finley? I mean, it's Finley's story. There's no question about it, and she's leading the action. There's no question about it. But Vero is so much a part of her life, and so much a part of her learning to be who she is. Of Finley's learning to be who she is, and what she cares about, and what her values are, and what her power is.
Yeah, and I think especially in book one, we really see that, and Finley Donovan is killing it. We see Finley starts in this very vulnerable place where she's forced to rediscover herself in the middle of her life, who she is as a mother, who she is as a lover, who she is as a friend, as a daughter, as a sister. You know, she's questioning everything. And she and Vero have this wonderful symbiotic relationship where they're so opposite in so many respects. Their personalities are very different. Their interests, their ages, their life experience, and yet each one brings to the table something the other needs. And we start to see those needs in Vero in Finley Donovan Knocks 'Em Dead as we start to peel away a little bit of her backstory. And we start to really see how they complement each other, and that together they're an unstoppable force. But I really, in book one, Vero became sort of a buoy for Finley, a way to kind of lift herself up out of these self-doubts and see her own strength reflected in somebody else's opinion of her who believed in her. And that became just a really beautiful foundation for the rest of their relationship.
And Vero shows her the way to confidence in herself.
Yes.
But the title, Finley Donovan Knocks 'Em Dead, is, you know, it's a metaphor for she does a great job. But on the other hand, there are some pretty bad guys in this. And there are some serious, actually literal knocks 'em dead.
Yes.
In the book. Talk a little bit about the bad guys in the book.
Yeah. So I love writing. I come from thrillers. I come from dark, angsty thrillers before I found Finley, and so there. I've always joked that in every book I ever write, someone's going to end up dead. It's just the kinds of books that I write. But we do have some what I think are fascinating bad guys in this story at lots of different levels. So, but the bad guys that kind of carry through the series, here we meet some members of the Russian mob who are operating organized crime right here in Finley's backyard, very covertly amongst soccer moms and you know, kind of doing nefarious things, just right out in plain sight, but kind of hidden in plain sight. And so Finley gets wrapped up with these characters, and with every decision she makes, she ends up deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole. And it's hard to talk about without revealing too much, without spoiling too much of the mystery. But you know, here Finley at the beginning thinks that she has only been asked to eliminate this one woman's terrible, awful, horrible problem husband, until she realizes that this husband has connections with some very awful people. And now Finley is deeply wrapped up with these horrible, awful people, and she's going to have to find her way out.
As you would.
As you would.
But here's the thing. So listen to what you just said, Ellen. Listen to what she just said, everybody. Here's Janine saying, love those thrillers. And Brenda's saying, everybody's applauding, and somebody's going, boo, hiss, Russian mob, bad guys. Read the room, Russia says. But, you know, so here's what you're talking about, the mob and Russians and murder and death and horrible stuff. And then, but it's also like, okay, Elle, but you have to be really funny. Be funny when you're doing it. How do you, I mean, I can, I know this is wrong, but I imagine you at your typewriter laughing and laughing, but probably it's harder than that. Talk a little bit about the pressure to be funny.
It is really, really hard because this is still new for me. I mean, for the last 10 years, I've been writing dark, angsty books. So comedy is new for me, and it was not something I had a great deal of confidence in coming out of the gate. When I first came up with the idea for the story, I asked my critique partners to write it. I said, I have this wild idea for a book, and I need one of you two to write it because I don't think I can pull this off. And they said, oh no, this one has to be yours, Elle. You can do this. And they were kind of my Finley and my Vero kind of, encouraging me and telling me that I could write this kind of a book. And it wasn't until I was sort of knee deep in it that I realized that, yeah, I can probably do this. It feels like it's working. It feels like it's working. But I think what I've learned through this process is that the toolbox for writing comedy and the toolbox for writing thrillers draw from the same tools. So when you think about what makes a great thriller is all about pacing and being careful and spare with your language, with your prose, and not bogging down your pacing with too much of it. And so pacing really is key in pulling off that taut thriller that kind of stays tense all the way through, where you maintain your tension all the way through. Humor, also all about pacing. And it's all about in some cases being spare and trusting your reader to get it. Not putting too much of the humor, out in obvious ways, but like a more nuanced approach to it. And in some cases, a more spare approach to it. And just like thrillers, we have to kind of be careful about picking the appropriate time to reveal something or have something happen to our protagonist. It's the same thing with humor. It's about timing and picking the right time and then being spare and being careful with the pacing. And those skills run parallel, I think. And so once that occurred to me, I was like, I can write comedy because I can already know how to do thrillers. And those two skills have sort of helped, I think, build strength in each other. And it's been really fun to put them together. Really fun.
That is so brilliant. That's a marvelous observation, because we're talking about Finlay Donovan Knocks Him Dead, you all, in case you came in a little bit late, this fabulous new book by Elle Cosimano, because there is not a moment, no matter what happens in this book, no matter what crazy things happen in the book, it's not slapstick humor. It just is sophisticated. It's wry. It's witty. There are one-liners that are laugh out loud funny throughout. And it's just, if I say something, it's just so real. It's what Finlay would really say. It's how she would really look at the world, and how it lets us know who she is through what she says and what she thinks.
Yeah, I think finding Finley's voice was sort of the beginning of setting the tone for the rest of the story. And that for me, I think came pretty easily because there's a lot of my own voice in Finley's voice, that sort of dry, almost acerbic wit at times is the voice inside my own head when I'm talking to myself. The voice of the struggling writer that came from a very real, raw place. Like, I've spent 10 years trying to, get books out the door and off the ground. And so there were some very real frustrations that I was able to kind of bring to her character and bring to her voice. Her voice as a mother. Mine are older now, almost 17 and almost 20. But I remember what it was like to have, embarrassing moments in the grocery store when your children are being horrible, and, you haven't slept and you just feel like so exhausted. I just remember those days in a very raw way. And it was fun to sort of put all of those own elements of my own voice into this character. And then once Vero's voice came to me and the two of them on the page together, they were so fantastic together. That's really when it all started to come together. The tone, the comedic tone, and the overall tone of the book really came from the two of them and those two voices in harmony.
I mean, it's sort of Thelma and Louise meet Lucy and Ethel.
Yeah.
That's great. It's so much fun to read. And the idea that Finlay is an author struggling to make her deadlines, her lines with her editor pretending that the book is done, pretending that the book is ready. And then and this is not a spoiler, you all, but one of my favorite moments in the book, absolutely, is when Finley's mother says to her, what if nobody wants to read your books anymore? What if the publisher doesn't want to publish your books anymore? And Finley says what?
I've never stared at the ceiling all night wondering the same thing. Right? Yeah, it's in that those are all very real fears I think a lot of us have, that
Oh, I think so.
that I think when we talk about her being a real relatable character, those are the real moments that I let come through. Some of the more vulnerable moments that came from my own experiences as an author and as a mom, I let come through on the page. I let the readers in a little bit, and that's fun. It's also cathartic, to put some of those out there and poke a little fun at publishing and motherhood and all of these other things. And so I have a lot of fun writing her character, and I hope that comes through.
It completely comes true. And then the super triple meta in the book, just as Brenda was asking, is in the book, and this is not a spoiler either, is that there is some discussion with her agent, with Finley's agent, about her books, which are sort of like these books. You have to read it to figure that out, but you'll get it, going to be in film or video. Is that really happening in your life? Brenda says it should.
Yeah, we have some really exciting things happening for the Finley Donovan series right now. The books have been optioned for a television series by 20th Television Studios, with Marlene King set to produce. She was the producer of the very successful TV series Pretty Little Liars. She is wonderful. She has written a fabulous pilot script. We are in the process of casting our Finley. And so things are moving along in a wonderful, wonderful direction. We're very, very excited. And we are optimistic that we will have news and updates soon to share. Everyone can kind of follow along on my social media. As soon as I know, you all will know. But we're optimistic for a TV series. And then, of course, we've got more Finley books on the horizon as well.
My very next question, and everybody else in the comments is asking exactly the same question. Brenda's applauding, Catherine saying, wow, congrats. And there's a lot of exclamation marks going on out there. So are there more Finley books?
There are more Finley books. We have book 3, which has yet to be titled. That will be coming January 31st, I believe. And there will be a 4th Finley book a year following. And we are optimistic that if everyone continues to love Finley, if everyone continues to support the series, buy the series, that we will hopefully be able to make it a long-running series. I have high hopes that we'll be able to keep it going.
Sherry says, sounds like you are busy. How could anyone not love Finley? Finley is one of the most hilarious, most memorable, most iconic characters I've ever read. I don't remember how I read your first book. I don't remember who gave it to me or who suggested it to me. And I thought, what is this? Finley Donovan is Killing It was the first one, as we were talking about. And I just laughed and laughed and fell in love. And I just couldn't be happier for you. So well deserved. Can you believe that little moment in time turned into this?
I can't. It was it's amazing to me to look and see how far Finley has come in such a short period of time. But yeah, when we first came out of the gates with this idea, we weren't really sure what to expect. It was a new audience for me. It was a new style of book for me. It was a genre bender in a lot of different ways, which always seems to make the publishing companies stop and pause and think, well, how do we make this work? So there were a lot of questions at the beginning about whether or not this little book would fly. And it is so wonderful. I really attribute a lot of the success to the passion of the readers and how vocal everyone had been about their love for these books. It's been wonderful.
Well, often they'll say, well, am I supposed to put this in mystery or thriller or women's fiction? I say, just put it in bestsellers. and that will solve the problem. Think about it. Don't forget, you have about 5 minutes to enter to win a copy of Finley, Donovan Knocks 'Em Dead and see the Wheel of Fun, which we will spin to choose a winner. But first, let's ask them some questions. Yes, of course, let's ask some questions. Who has a question? Catherine, hey, Catherine, is saying, did you have input into the cover design and title? Was this always the title? Was Knocks 'Em Dead, Finley dead, Donovan is killing them?
Here's a fun little meta fact for you. I did not come up with this title. My editor came up with this title. She's brilliant. For a long time, we didn't know what the title of the book was going to be. When I was working on it, my working title was The Hit, which is the name of Finley's book in the book. So we were able to honor the original title that way. But my editor was the brilliant mind behind Finley Donovan is Killing It and Finley Donovan Knocks 'Em Dead. And she has another wonderful suggestion for book 3, which I'm hoping we'll be able to announce here soon.
Great. Well, as soon as you figure that out, as soon as you announce it, we will broadcast it all over Crime Time. That would be great. And as soon as you figure out who's going to be your Finley, we'll broadcast that all over Crime Time.
That would be wonderful. I'm excited to share that news.
So Catherine is saying, was writing the second in a series different from the first? Ooh, I bet it was. What's your answer to that?
So much harder for me. And I think each book continues to get harder. Book 3, even more so. And I've asked myself that question a lot, like, why? Why is it harder? And I think to some degree, it's because the books have been so successful and we have such passionate fans that there are all of these internal voices now that that put pressure on myself not to disappoint you, the readers, that I want you to love it as much as you love the first book. So I probably spend an enormous amount of time putting added pressure on myself that I don't need to. The books are probably, from a technical standpoint, not terribly different to craft, but it's hard because I want to do right by my readers. And when you're talking series, that does, I think, add a different layer to it. The other part is the deeper we go, sort of peeling back layers and figuring out, well, when is the right time to reveal certain things about these characters and who they are and their backstories to you so that we can continue the fun for a long time. And so really thinking through the series as I'm crafting each individual book to make sure I'm holding back just enough that we have more sand in the sandbox to play in down the road.
You have a lot of sand. You have the romantic sound as well, because I wonder if you get a lot of emails saying, I'm Team Julian, I'm Team Nick, who Finley should choose of these two very hot possibilities.
People have very strong opinions. And actually, we had a third team materialize after book 2 came out. Now we have I actually get some readers who tell me that they're also considering a Team Stephen, her ex-husband now, which I found.
If you were doing that. I wondered if you were doing that.
I found that to be really interesting. So yeah, we do have very strong opinions out there about her love interests and which direction people would like to see her go. But I think for me, this has always been Team Vero. And people ask me all the time, well, who do you want her to end up with? And I said, well, I just want her to be happy. But at the end of the day, I want her to know herself and be confident in that. And these gentlemen each have had a part in helping her discover herself through the series. But at the end of book 1, and at the end of book 2, if she had kicked both of them to the curb and stayed home with Vero and had some Oreos in their pajamas and watched some TV for a few hours, I would have been very happy with that ending as well. So for me, it will always, always be Team Vero.
You just bring tears to my eyes. And you hear with what Elle is saying about that, how this is so much more than a fun, funny mystery. This is a wonderful story of two women who learn to be friends, of a struggling young mom, of a struggling young writer, of a person who we absolutely adore, Finley Donovan, and her pal, Vero, who is absolutely great. Do you have time for one more question?
Of course.
Who else has a question? What are you reading now? Oh, the toughest question. What are you reading now?
It is a tough question because I just came up for air as I was finishing the draft of Finley 3, which was due on last Monday. So I'm just coming up for air and catching up on a lot of reading. I've been doing a lot of reading this week, but a lot of what I've been reading are manuscripts. So I've been sent quite a few manuscripts for, for friends and critique partners and people who are waiting on feedback and blurbs and things like that. So that's been great fun. But one book I did have the joy to read very, very recently and came out just today, so everyone should go look for it, is Like a Sister by Kelly Garrett. I believe release day was today. Yes, right here. You have it. That was
I just have this right here.
That's wonderful. That book came out today, and it is wonderful, and it's twisty, and it's got great voice. So I did have the pleasure of reading that very recently. And then another question that I get a lot from people, they say, well, if I love the Finley books, what else should I read that's going to give me the same kind of feeling, that's going to hit the same notes? And one of the ones I recommend is the series Dorinda Jones, A Bad Day for Sunshine. It's a trilogy, and the first 2 books are out, and the third one comes out. But it's a mom heroine. It's a quirky cast of characters. It's lots of fun, witty banter, a mystery at its heart. It's all the fun, a little steamy romance in there. It's all the fun things that Finley offers. And so it would scratch that itch until Finley 3 comes out.
That's great. That is perfect. While you're reading Finley Donovan Knocks 'Em Dead and running out to get Finley Donovan is Killing It and waiting for book 3 yet unnamed, which you will hear when we know, you can read Dorinda Jones and you can read Kelly Garrett, which is not funny, but it's very witty. It's very dry. It's very biting. She has a wonderful, cynical humor about her take on the world. So I highly recommend that as well. Oh my golly, we are out of time. Shall we do the Wheel of Fun?
Let's do it.
Wheel of Fun and pick the winner of Finley Donovan Knocks 'Em Dead. Oh, look at this. And it is... the suspense. Dorian has won. That's congratulations, Dorian. To email me and I will get you a copy from Elle of Finley Donovan Knocks 'Em Dead. Don't you love the Wheel of Fun? You got it.
That's so fun. I love the confetti at the end. It's very festive.
You hardly ever see things like that, right? You hardly ever see that. Elle Cosimano, thank you. Oh, you know what? Stay right there, because let me tell you all, next week at 4 o'clock on Tuesday on Crime Time, as always, another wonderful author. And next week, possibly, we will have 2. Look who is coming to Crime Time. Greer Hendricks and Sarah Picken's The Golden Couple, their newest soon-to-be bestseller about a couple with secrets who go to a therapist, but it turns out that the therapist has some secrets of her own. A real nail-biting psychological suspense, The Golden Couple. So we'll hear all about that next week on Tuesday at 4 p.m. on Crime Time. Meantime, Elle Cosimano, thank you. You are fabulous, and this book is wonderful. Long may you write, and I think you should forget about worrying about your publisher. You don't have to worry about that anymore. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. It is wonderful to be here with you. Wonderful to be here with you. Thanks, everybody.
You all, thank you for being here. Remember, keep reading. It is always safe inside a book, and we will see you next.